Hi, everyone. That is such an amazing video. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Women in Fashion panel discussion. I'm honored to be part of the Fashion Week Columbus events this week. As you know, Fashion Week is a nonprofit organization that highlights designers and provides important scholarships. Their work stretches far beyond the catwalk. And speaking of the catwalk, like we just saw, please make sure to support Fashion Week Columbus by getting your tickets for their upcoming events. Passport to Fashion is tomorrow night, and their spectacular finale show is on Saturday. Going to be amazing. You can find all the information needed on their website or through their Facebook page. My name is Vicki Bowen Hughes. I am a longtime supporter and fan of Fashion Week Columbus and Thomas and team. I'm also the founder of Fashion Forward, a designer resale marketplace that gives back. 60% of every purchase is donated to organizations empowering women. You can consign, shop, and make a difference through fabulous fashion. Please visit us online at www.fashionforwardonline.com, Instagram, and Facebook. Our topic tonight is women in fashion because we're worth it. I'm excited to discuss experiences with these remarkable women who have broken through barriers and are inspirational role models. We'll be talking about our lives as women and professionals in different aspects of the fashion industry and how we've lifted ourselves and other women through resilience, style, and sisterhood. If you have questions during our conversation, please post them in the chat. We're dedicating several minutes at the end of our discussion to sharing your questions with the panelists. You might notice that each of us is wearing a powerful statement necklace. Each one is very unique. This is our small way of paying homage to the honorable trailblazer, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She's the ultimate example of a woman living in her truth and using her power to further women's rights. We are grateful for your service, Notorious RBG. Now, please join me in welcoming these esteemed leaders. Welcome, Nia Noelle. Nia's media career has spanned 2 decades and taken her to several states. Nia was the stiletto-loving midday host on Power 107.5 for 8 years before moving over to Magic 95.5. She's a highly regarded leader in our community and has devoted several years of talent with Fashion Week Columbus. I'm forever a fan of Nia. When I first moved to Columbus, I tuned into 107.5 and was forever in love. And she just has the most beautiful style and spirit. Thank you, Nia.
I'm a fan of yours, Vicki.
Girl Club. Welcome, Max Dixon. Max was raised in a very small town in Mount Sterling, Ohio. Now Max is an international plus-size fit runway and print model. She's an avid autism awareness advocate, a wife, and a mother of 5. God bless you, and thank you for making time tonight. You really have 3 full-time jobs, right? I mean, you're a mom, you're a model, you're a wife, let's make it 4, and you're freaking fabulous. So thank you so much for being with us. Welcome, Celeste Malvar-Stewart. Celeste is a local independent fashion textiles artist who focuses on sustainability. She works with Ohio women farmers to obtain wool and alpaca fibers and uses her work to address social and political issues. Celeste cares so deeply about her work and knows the names of each of the sheep that she gets wool from. I know this for a fact. And yes, she's extremely special. Welcome, Celeste.
Thank you, Vicki.
And welcome, Lubna Najjar. Lubna is a fashion industry expert in design, product development, merchandising, and supply chain. She's the founder of the National Moda brand development company, working with over 50 national brands, including influencer labels. Lubna is also the president of the Columbus Fashion Council board and a true advocate for all women. Her Instagram feed alone is amazing, and that's just a minuscule part of who she is as a true advocate for all women. So welcome, ladies. So great to be together. We spent some time yesterday talking, and I'm just in awe of everything each of you has accomplished. You are juggling so much, Max. As a mom, how do you talk to your daughter about all the messages that are constantly coming against the screens, up on the screens, and now with so much screen time, how do you talk to your daughters about all of those sexist images?
So I guess I was really noodling over this because I wanted to make sure that I was, sharing the best advice. And honestly, the more I thought about it is with my daughters, we have a very open communication about not judging each other. So parenting really is not about controlling your child's decision, but respecting and helping them grow their own individuality. So I don't necessarily control what they see because I feel like over sheltering will make them feel like they won't see what's actually out there. But I am very open to hearing what questions they have. Let's talk about it. Because for instance, I have a daughter who society would say should be out there wearing a two-piece, right? Her body is the body that they always talk about. She should be able to wear it. But when I was out picking bathing suits and she kept going to the one pieces and I was like, why are you getting the one pieces? All the girls your age are wearing the two pieces. She was like, I'm not comfortable. And that was all she had to say, right? And then I was just like, oh, well, what do you want to wear, right? The bathing suit wasn't for my decision. It's her body. It's how she wants to be perceived out at the pool and what she's comfortable in wearing. And so I had to respect, oh, well, what do you want to wear? What color do you want to wear? And I think sometimes as parents, we just automatically choose things for them. But these things aren't for us to choose for our children. We should be respecting their individuality and who they want to be and how they want to present themselves to the world, I think is what's been kind of what I've learned also along this. And I think their confidence is being built by knowing that I support their decisions. Mm-hmm. So where she wasn't comfortable wearing her stomach out, I was like, okay, no problem. Mm-hmm. What do you want to wear? And then that made her more confident in the bathing suit that she chose to wear out to the pool. Right, because she knew that I was acceptive of whatever she wanted to wear. Sometimes I wear certain things or I do for instance, she thought when she turned 13, she wanted to wear makeup. She was like, I want to wear makeup. And I was like, okay. She started putting it on. She realized how much work it was, but she saw me doing it every day. She was like, Mom, I don't want to wear makeup anymore. It lasted for about a week, but I gave her that openness that, okay, if you want to put on a little lip gloss and you want to brush your brows out, fine.
Right.
Because she sees Mom do it. But the moment that she got into it, she realized that that wasn't her passion. That's not what
and there's
she
Mom. I mean, look how fat, look at Mom. I mean, you're just absolutely stunning.
Thank you. But these are things that I love, so I had to learn to also respect. She has to find the things that she loves. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to respect the things that she loves. So right. She loves anime. She likes to go downtown for the big, conventions. It's not necessarily my thing, but I'm here to support her. And if we have to go do cosplay together because that's something that she loves, I'm willing to do that, So yeah. I think that the balance of parenting is respecting their individuality and helping them grow that.
You really, you made your family a priority before you launched into your career. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of some of the things that you pushed up against starting and modeling a little bit later?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is I had our first child by the time I was 19, our second by the time I was 21, and I also had our stepson move in the same week as the second. So I went from a mom of 1 to 3 and just about a week. It was a very overwhelming thing. And then our son was, and, I would say that, I started getting into modeling a little bit. However, the other two older ones aren't in this picture because they've moved they've moved out. They've gotten older. I should say that they are in their 20s now. It makes me sound much older. But that being said, when our son got diagnosed with autism, I had to take a step back in my pursuing of modeling. I couldn't, just go do things at whim because I really needed to be there for all of his therapy sessions and, speech and OT. And so that's when I got into photography. So I would say that I've always been fluid. I'm going to do something, but I had to find a job that would allow me to be very fluid in my schedule. Photography also became a connection for me and my son because he couldn't necessarily speak, but we could communicate through photographs of things that he wanted or needed.
Oh, that's really great.
And then, a few years later, I had an offer where, somebody reached out. They needed, a plus size model here locally, and people had known that I had done it in the past. And so I had some of those connections. They invited me to come in. And, I would just say that things happen in the right time when they're supposed to. Because what should have just been like a one meeting turned into 60 days, and then 60 days has turned into 7 years working now with one company, working on plus size fashion. And it's allowed me the opportunity to travel around the world. And the part of parenting that I've learned, I guess, through this journey of this next part of my career is that it's our quality of time versus quantity of time. So when I was traveling a lot, it was really about the time that I was home, really making sure that it was important and we were engaged and we were doing things.
Right.
I knew that I wasn't going to have as much quantity with them. Now during COVID, we have so much time together.
Yeah. It's been an adventure, that's for sure. That's for sure. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. I know that, when you start in a career a little bit later or when you're traveling around, it makes a big difference. Nia, a couple of the pictures that you shared of you with some strong women really were so beautiful, and I would love for you to share some insight.
So my two pictures, one is with my mother, and I was a itty bitty one. I want to say my mom, that one. I think I was 3 or 4. I remember this day. I don't remember a lot from that age, but I totally remember that day. My mom was graduating, and I was so proud of her. And I caught so much inspiration from her at that point in her life. And we were actually talking about this picture the other day. So when you were asking for pictures that we felt inspired or strong, I was like, oh, I got to send this one. And it was a really, really hot day, but that's why my bangs are all drawn back on my forehead there. But it was a great, amazing day. And I was so proud of my mommy then and her accomplishments. The other picture is me and my grandmother, and this one was just taken last year. My grandmother got really, really sick, and there was a situation where my actions saved her life, and this was her birthday after that situation, and I was just so happy that she was with us. She's still here with us to this day, and I love her to death, and I love that picture of us.
Yeah,
and
so beautiful.
Just makes me so, certain things just make you the warm fuzzy.
Right.
Yeah.
So beautiful. It's so important that we see people that look like us in leadership roles and in our family. One of the things that I was really struck by several months ago is I was looking through covers of magazines, and there just weren't women of color represented on covers of magazines. And I know that your work, you really try to create this beautiful rainbow of diversity within all that you do, but specifically with Fashion Week Columbus.
Yeah. So one of the first things that I was just very adamant about with Fashion Week was our runway looking like the world. I grew up in a place where I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me outside of my immediate family, or I call it extended family, like your play cousins or the mom that's not your mom that helped raise you. So there just wasn't a lot of minorities around me. And I noticed that at places I go, you go to buy a greeting card. It's hard to find a picture, with people of color on greeting cards. And this is the world that we're in. So, when we were talking about magazine covers, I was like, absolutely. I notice it all the time. I did a little research because I wanted some facts to back us up. 1974 was the first Black woman on the cover of Vogue. That was Beverly Johnson. And I read an article with her recently, and she was talking about just disparities and stuff like that in the fashion industry. And one of the things she talked about was Beyonce was on the cover of Vogue in 2018. And Beyonce told Vogue that she wasn't going to do it unless she got to choose the photographer, and she chose a Black male. He was the first Black photographer, and there hasn't been another photographer to shoot the cover of Vogue since. And that magazine's 125 years old. It's just interesting that people think they're choosing what society wants to see, but it's not necessarily true. There are so many people that I think we would love to see on the covers of magazines, so many trailblazers, so many leaders. One thing I found was Rihanna is the most woman of color on magazines, which I thought was interesting. Behind her is Kerry Washington. But, you know, I know that they pick who they want because they think that's who's going to sell. But I know that there are other women out there that could love to have this opportunity, and we would still buy the magazine because she's looking fabulous. And we want to read the articles and see what's about them. So, you know, I would love for these organizations to have more diversity and more inclusion, like what we've pushed for Fashion Week Columbus.
Right. And in the fashion industry, you know, there's this cultural moment right now, right, where we had Brianna on the cover, we had Simone on the cover, we have all of these beautiful covers of women of color. How do we maintain that? How do we maintain that momentum and that diversity?
I honestly think that the way we're going to push this forward, because obviously a lot of these things have been happening because of what's been happening in the US lately. And a lot of these organizations, I don't want to call them bandwagon, but they're seeing now, okay, you're right. We do need more diversity, not only at the board, you know, the boardroom, but on the representation. So I think that if we still use our voice, and the way we can use our voice is, you know, sharing things like we are tonight, social media, different ways like that. I think that these people that are running these companies will see that that's what we want. We want to see the way the world looks on these covers. And we just have to hold them accountable and do it, even if that means taking time and sending an email to that info@Vogue, whatever their email is, just letting them know, hey, I appreciate that you put a woman of color on this, on the cover. You know, we just have to keep using our voice because these companies want to please us. They know that we're going to buy. So if we're dictating to them what we want, they're going to have to give in.
Right. Woman power. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Using our voice.
Yes.
So, Celeste, you created a collection called Woman that goes so deep into the woman experience that it's almost spiritual, right? I mean, it's so beautiful. It's spiritual. Can you share about it?
Yes, thank you, Vicki. It really is spiritual, and it was a very spiritual experience to create them. And Nia, you know, you just make me just want to say, yes, 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 right. You're absolutely right. And it's also up to designers because we, in a way, we dictate what are these women wearing? What clothes are they wearing on these covers? And designers should have a voice to say, I want my piece on a person of color, or I want my piece on
That's right.
on a certain type of woman. So this woman collection was sort of my salute to every woman, every single one of you, women of the past, you know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the women of the future, your beautiful daughters, Max, and it's a salute to women throughout time who have had to fight these battles. And they have been different battles throughout time. We're fighting a completely different battle in this era and this lifetime than they did during the Renaissance time, you know, during the medieval time. So I tried to encapsulate the meaning of these battles and really honoring women and empowering women. So these gowns, they were a series of gowns, and I only used female wool and alpaca fiber on them from my favorite alpacas and sheep. And I know them all by name, as you know. So Penelope is on the one that you saw there. And I dyed them with iron water. So they, women with all these different, the world likes to call them issues, but they're just what makes us women. They're just complexities that we have. So yes, some of us have iron deficiencies. Yes. So that's in there. There's a lot of symbolism of stretch marks, pieces that look like stretch marks. There's a lot of hair. So a lot of these characteristics that women have and we adore, yet society tells us that we shouldn't. You should shave those legs. You shouldn't have hair under your arms. Ooh, stretch marks, that's bad. Cover them up. So these are all these aspects that I think make us beautiful. And then when you put them on a gown that is beautiful, then it begins the dialogue. And we took we did this photo shoot, which is the usurper in me, I think. But we did this photo shoot in the Capitol building in Sacramento because I'm from California. And we sort of snuck in with a very small crew and my friend who's wearing the gown, who's not a model, but she encapsulates all this power women and in her struggles. And we walked around the whole building and it was just covered wall to wall with these old portraits of past governors and, mayors, and they were all men. I didn't see one woman while we walked throughout that building. And they were all white, middle-aged, elderly men in these very, prestigious portraits that we look like we should be honoring them and bowing down to them. And here we are. There's this beautiful woman in this symbolic piece, and she had the freedom to lay on a couch. Yeah. In that picture, there's a sign in the background that says, "Quiet, please." So in all the images, so you can kind of see it there in the background. And that was a sign that was already there. We didn't bring it. Mm-hmm. And that was sort of telling, that's that sort of secret language in society where it's okay to tell women, don't speak up. Your space, your place is behind us, and your voices should be quieter. So we kind of use a lot of symbolism to start a dialogue around this idea.
Right. It's so beautiful. And I know in your field as a designer, there aren't as many women in the field. So how does that make it a more competitive landscape? Is it a more inclusive landscape?
It's I think like the rest of society and other disciplines, it is highly competitive because there aren't very many women. So all of a sudden, women are having to compete against other women, even though there are 2 against 20 men. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, the 2 women are going head to head, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of us against the 20 men. So I'm hoping with discussions like this, I'm hoping that the environment will begin to change where women realize there aren't a lot of us. We need to lift each other up and trying to get us through these programs. Right.
No, it's so true. And Lubna, it's the other thing that I love about our collective experiences. There's a real worldview with everybody here, right? And Lubna, you've traveled extensively and done so many different things in different platforms of the fashion industry. What's given you the stamina to really break through? Because you are a young, really prosperous woman, and you have conquered a ton.
Thanks, Vicki. You're so sweet. First of all, can we just take a second to just say, Vicki, I'm always in awe of you. You always know how to bring just the right conversation to the table. You know how to bring the right people to talk about certain topics. So I just want to, hello.
Yes.
Fabulous. Truly, I think, to answer your question, I think it's a bit of a loaded question. I think it's we surround ourselves, as you're doing tonight, by women who inspire you and who you have inspired all these years. You know, when I first started my career within the industry, I came from a international business background, political science, pre-law. Like, I didn't come from fashion. I had a very short successful career with a really large company, and I had an opportunity to move up. And I remember looking at my manager and saying, I want to do something different. The place I was at, they helped pay for my MBA. And so I finished up that and gave them the time that I owed them. And I opened my showroom in the Short North, and I just went for it. And I took my business background, and that's really what fueled the fire of my journey within the industry. That's really just, you know, that's really how I started. I went to so many people to, you know, ask for help. Anytime my husband and I would travel somewhere, I'd say, okay, well, instead of just traveling for fun, let me Google somebody, a designer who lives nearby, and maybe I can just interview them. That's me in Italy a couple years ago. I was actually writing for a magazine.
Oh, how cool.
And we were traveling to different retailers and kind of covering them. But I would travel, and I would, instead of just going for leisure, I always wanted to learn, you know, and so I would connect with designers that were in those areas. And interestingly enough, a couple of those designers I met over the years, that one became my mentor, who's still my design mentor. It was David Tupaz. That's how Columbus even found out about him, is that he was my mentor. I met him on a whim while I was visiting Vegas. I just emailed and said, what's the worst that could happen? He'll say no, you know? And so I emailed and I said, I'd love to learn from you. I'm new to the industry. And he said, come to my studio. We ended up actually meeting at a restaurant, and we had the most incredible discussion. And if anybody's met David, you'll recall he is one of the most inspiring designers I think this world has really ever seen. And he's willing to share what he knows. And I think a lot of, you know, your success, however you define success, is, I believe, is knowledge sharing. And he doesn't keep any of it close to him. He shares it. And that's something I always said, if I ever made it, whatever that means, however you define that, I would always share what I know with the people that I believe, you know, that ask me. Or if I see somebody, you know, looking to do something in the industry and they're willing to hear some constructive criticism, or they want to know something in the industry as a resource, it's like, why wouldn't you just share that with them? Mm-hmm. So female, male, it doesn't matter. You know, I think it's important to share what we know, so that, you know, the world doesn't feel so small. We can actually, you know, share what we know. I know, Celeste, that's how you and I met a long time ago, is we were kind of in awe of each other. And until this day, I'm in awe of you and your work. So I think it takes, you know, a lot of patience with yourself. I think it takes patience with others. I think it takes a sort of a humble approach to doing everything you're doing. It doesn't matter how successful you are, how much money you have. You know, it's not really defined by that. It's defined by the impact you're making, you know? So what am I leaving behind? Am I waking up every day in gratitude and going to bed with gratitude, saying that, wow, I'm really thankful for the opportunity I had to do X, Y, and Z today? You know, what does it really mean if you're not making a change? So yeah, I mean, I think it's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think it's surrounding yourself by people who are open to it. You know, that's something you always did for me. Me always does for me is, you know, I say, I need advice, and how do I get here? You might not be the expert, but I trust you enough to kind of give me a different perspective, right? Or you might be the expert and you're going to say, you know what, you should meet this person, right? Right. And so I started my collection on the Fashion Week Columbus stage years ago, and it's now evolved into something truly bigger than I ever thought it would be with my consultancy. And now we're a national business servicing over 50 brands. It's just like insane what happens when you let yourself go.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
And you and I, Lubna, have this, I learned so much from you, and then I also have been grateful for times that I've been able to pour into you, right? But that doesn't naturally happen all the time with women. You know, there can be this competitive undercurrent. How can we, Max, I'm sure in your industry, it's like super competitive, right? Or can have that undercurrent. How do we rise above that consistently and not get caught in that undercurrent of negativity?
So it's definitely very predominant in the modeling industry, and especially amongst plus size who maybe have a little bit less opportunities than the Missy's sizes currently have. And then even more, it becomes maybe even more competition against different ethnicity, right? Because there's even less opportunity amongst breaking down each segment and each opportunity. I would say my aha moment in my career was about 5 years ago. I was at a runway show. All of, the girls that were there, we all had made the show, right? But for whatever reason, we were all still kind of like, how can we do the best? Our best, our best, our best. And there was a girl, and her name was Adriana LeBaron. And every time we would walk as we were practicing, she would come back and she would high five us all like a team. And she'd be like, good job, good job, good job. And it was that camaraderie that made me realize that, wait, this wasn't just about me. This was about us as women supporting each other, encouraging each other through the show. And it was like in that moment, which was like 5 years ago, that I was like, I want to be like her. Like, how do I encourage other women the same way? And I think when I changed my mindset of looking at it as like, I have to do my best instead of seeing it as we as women all have to do our best to make sure that we have the best show, and started using we as in all the people that were there, all the women, it really opened up even more opportunities. I've had opportunities presented to me that I've been able to share with other women, and I'm being able to watch their rise. So I think we have to realize that our own rise is also helping other people rise. And as well as I would never want to stand up on a mountain alone. I don't want to climb all the way up there and then get there and realize that I was completely by myself. But if I can get to each peak and have friends with me, I think that that is so much more important. So I think it's just, we all have to continue to keep supporting each other and realize that when you support another woman, that might be her aha moment as well of, oh, I need to encourage other women as well, because they might have just out of insecurity been keeping this inside, and you're that breakthrough for them to also pass it along. So I'm just, really honored the women that I've been able to impact, but I can specifically think of that one girl who opened my mind when she made it like a team.
Right. No, that is so beautiful. And I'm a firm believer in the power of vulnerability, right? Like, I make mistakes constantly, and I would rather just say, oh, I made a mistake, and, please forgive me. And, I want to be able to work together and collaborate specifically with women. Nia, in the media industry, I'm sure that it's super competitive as well.
It is, in media, it's a male-dominated business, and there were a lot of radio stations that I worked at where I would be the only on-air female personality.
Really? Wow. And
one thing that I have collectively taken, I love to help other people, especially women. I will help people learn to do what I do in a heartbeat. But one thing that, we talked about yesterday in our little girl chat is that people have to realize that when you're helping somebody, you're not taking away from yourself. Because I've heard people say, well, I don't want to help him because he may take my job one day. But whatever is for you is going to be yours. So teaching somebody else and helping them is not going to stop you from climbing your mountain. So people just need to get that out of their head.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know a gem.
Yeah.
It was like a gem of a comment, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like the key to it all. It's just, my personal opinion. It's like, why not just share it? Nobody, even if they're equally as successful as you, it's like, they're not going to do it the same way as you. And why don't you just hand in hand or elbow to elbow, since people aren't touching right now, go together into the successful point? It doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think there's also a joy, right? We forget too that, like, when and by the way, Lubna, I'm in awe of you always too. So. But and all of you women, but there's a joy when we lift another woman up and you see them succeeding on their own path, right? We can succeed on our own, and they're succeeding on their own. We feel this fulfillment and this joy. And that, I think, is the part that is addicting. I think, Max, when you saw that, you wanted to experience that same joy. And then you share it with another, and then it's the joy keeps it's exponential.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. You know, actually watching some of the girls that I mentor, their rise is almost more special than things that I've done, because I'm like, oh, but look at them, right? I agree, Celeste. It brings so much more joy to see other people succeeding and being happy.
Right. It's like not being on that peak alone. You're just hand in hand with your beautiful sisters. And it just makes it that much more rewarding. Lubna, I know that you're a big believer and proponent of mindset and just getting your head in that place that helps to eradicate the insecurity, because I can't speak for any of you, but I have moments of insecurity, and having the mindset to overcome that is transformative.
Absolutely. I believe mindset is everything. And, you know, Thomas McClure, the executive director of the Fashion Council and Fashion Week, he and I talk about this all the time. We're always sharing our podcasts and our books. And one of the ones that we just finished was Eckhart Tolle and Oprah they broke down his book, A New Earth. And I cannot tell you, Tommy, I know you're watching. I can't tell you how that has, I don't want to say changed my life, but I would say has kind of changed my mindset when it comes to a lot of different situations, and that it really kind of breaks down that ego is the basis of all of our insecurity, because we want certain things and we desire certain things differently. Certain things we want and certain things we desire are actually really bad for us. And so, but, you know, desire is dangerous because it just feeds all of the parts of you that you're like, you know, it's like they're nature driven desires, right? But going back to mindset, it's like if you truly believe that something is yours, I believe it will be yours. Like if you really can set your mind to something, we always say in our company, we say, get out of your own way. Don't be the reason that you don't do something.
Right.
Because guess what? What's the worst that could happen if you try? You'll fail. Okay. And then do something else, right? Try something different. So, you know, a lot of times we get in our own way because we think, oh, one day I'll do this. One day.
Right.
Well, that one day is probably today. You
Day
don't want to look
one,
back
or what is the saying? I think it's like day one or one day or day one. Yeah, right.
Exactly. And me and I just had a whole brand discussion a couple months, or maybe last month sometime, about, you know, at what point is the right time to really invest in yourself. And that doesn't just mean money, that means time and energy and, you know, and resource as far as like your emotional energy into yourself. And that day is right now, you know, and I know that sounds very, you know, very, what's the word, like idealistic, but it really is possible. Look at all these women on the screen right now. Every single one of us has gotten out of our own way and said, I'm going to take a risk and I'm going to do this for me.
And it's scary. It's scary, right? I mean, it's I think that what I had to do was I had to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? You have to become, for me, I had to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Celeste, I know you had or I believe that you had somebody that was really critical of your work at one point. And did that ever make you think, oh, I shouldn't proceed down this. I should do something else?
I think when that happens, it can go that way. But it could also go the other way, right? Especially if you have a little bit of the woman power, and that where, you know, if you miss a punch, you know, I have little hands, and my mom would always say, "You're little, but you can be terrible." And I think I went the other direction where I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have done something that has made this person, you know, react, right?" And I'm a different type of fashion designer, so I'm making the textiles, I'm making the garments, so they're art pieces. And I felt like this is what art is supposed to do. And this is what I set out to do, was affect others. And I don't need anyone to always love my work or always hate my work. I think my worst fear is that nobody has anything to say about my work.
Right.
So yeah, I felt it was a very empowering moment.
Right. I think that it's so hard sometimes to accept criticism, but I think that many times people will take that as, oh, okay, well, that's my barrier, right? That's my sign that maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore. When in fact, to your point, it's a reaction. And for me, it fuels me to keep moving forward because why is that, right? I mean, why was there pushback to that? Because that must mean I'm doing something right. Right? I think I'm doing something right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of just the differences between men and women in different industries, Lubna, I know that in the creator community, there are men creators and women creators. How is that kind of an equal playing field?
Our experience in Moda is that we work, as you all know, we work with a lot of influencers, creators, talent, and so many times we're developing their product lines for them, or we're helping them get some brand deals or things like that. And something I shared with this beautiful group of women yesterday is that a lot of times the males are followed by females. They're free audience, they're free watchers on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Triller, wherever it is. They're mostly females. And the audience that follows the females are mostly males. And so when you're taking your brand strategy and your commerce strategy, and you're trying to figure out how to monetize, when, selling to females is a lot easier if it's a male, but selling to anybody when you're a female is a lot harder. And so something I shared with you all yesterday that I really noshed over, as Max, was mentioning earlier, he really thought about it. I thought about it a little bit more, and we've got the numbers to prove that, men can sell to anyone, but women can't sell to everyone.
Wow.
Because a lot of times, if you go to social media, it's mostly, unless the girl unless the female is promoting, a Nordstrom or a shopping mall or something like that, she has a personality and she has a visual that men unfortunately are exploiting, and they're seeing her for her body type, whether she's, a fitness girl, or whether she's just a fashion girl who's really beautiful and she's really feeling herself, and she's there to just express herself through imagery, through Instagram, right? And so the males that follow her are there just to watch. And you can't sell those people anything. So we see a major variance between male selling and female selling. And it's really actually disheartening, because a lot of times the females have a bigger following, but you can't monetize on that following because they're just viewers. They're like 10% haters, right. 80% creepy males, right? Or like bots. And then that last 10% are like the people that are actually really like them because of what they represent. And so the goal is for us is to get that 10% and create some sort of product line or lifestyle brand around that 10% that we can monetize on. And so it's a crazy world right now. Everything is online. Our personalities are online.
Right.
And, we have, not only do we have to be careful with what we share, but we have to be careful of how it's being interpreted by that whole 100%. I know we talk about it with Fashion Forward, with some of the campaigns. Right. It's like, how are we reaching some of these women? Right. How are we reaching the shoppers? I don't know. What do you think, Vicki?
I think that women need to be more supportive of women overall. And for whatever reason, and I think that it is, Celeste could probably speak much more eloquently on this than I, but there has been this underwriting competitive feeling with women towards women, the mean girls, all of those types of stereotypes. But the more that we lift one another up, and the more I think that we empower ourselves to bring our authentic selves to whatever we're doing, and people don't see us, don't objectify us, but they see us as people. Yeah. I think that it is helpful for us to be humanized. Women have been objectified for so long, and we're humans. So would you add anything to that, Celeste?
I could never be more eloquent than you, Vicky. So I'll try to add something, but I think also what I think we women are so good, and it's just innate. I think we do have this innate caring and love. I mean, Mother Earth. We call it Mother Earth, right? Because it's that nourishment, that nourishing, loving spirit. And I think women do that with other women, but I think for some reason, when there's a call to action, we're really quick to say, "Oh my gosh, you look beautiful," or "Oh my gosh, what you do is incredible." But then we don't go that extra step to support them in buying your product, or doing business with you, or having me on a network. So I think if we are just a little bit more mindful that it's wonderful to be supportive, but we also, every one of us, have to take the action.
You have to really take it through. Nia, would you say it's similar in the African American community?
Yeah, I would. I definitely would. And, one thing that I want to challenge people is that support doesn't always have to mean your dollars. Yes, it's great if you can buy somebody's product, but sharing it with other people, saying, I got this somewhere, or Lubna makes this amazing product. Celeste makes these amazing gowns, and they're fabulous. Like, sharing that knowledge with people can be pivotal and also uplifting to other women. And I think that is one thing, because we automatically always go to the dollar. And, the world we're in right now, money is scarce for a lot of people. There's a lot of people out of work. So how can you help people? Share what they do with others. So, there's so many ways that we can uplift each other. And we just gotta pause a little bit and think out of the box. How can I just show this woman some love and uplift her?
Be intentional.
I saw it exactly like when Celeste said the word mindful. Like, that was what I was thinking when Lubna was talking, was mindfulness. We have to be mindful about the things that we're doing. And then what Nia just said is being tactful. Mindfulness and tactfulness, because if we lead with both of those things and we even question ourselves in the moment, like, where are we buying this from? Do we believe in what we're buying? And if we can't buy, like, how are we sharing that with our community or sharing knowledge? So both things I think are really important for women right now, is that we're mindful and we're tactful in the things that we're doing.
We've had so much time, through quarantine. I mean, it's been this really time of self-inflection and reflection, to ponder where we want to share our resources and how we can engage each other. And speaking of engagement, I wanted to check and see, I think we're at about 7:20. And I wanted to check in with Aditi and see if there were any questions that we wanted to answer for people. I'm not seeing any that are come across. Right. Thanks, Nia. Thank you. While we're waiting on that, we can each talk about our homage to Ruth. Oh, here's one. Celeste, you lifted me up so much in my first couple of years, means more than you'll ever know. A beautiful and pure example for others.
Oh, thank you, Abe. I can't somehow get on the chat, so I actually have to hold my tears back. So I'm really moved by your beautiful words. So April, you are amazing, 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 and I don't see what I had anything to do with it at all, but I think I thank you for your beautiful words. I think thank you.
Yeah.
But Celeste, you just said, I don't know what I had to do. You definitely had something to do with her, because it could have just been a story you shared and inspired that woman. One thing that this just made me think of is we also have to realize how powerful we are, and how we don't even realize how we could be inspiring and helping somebody. So here's an example right here. You're saying, well, I don't even know what I did. Honey, you did something, because somebody ain't just going to say all those wonderful things about somebody and you didn't inspire her in some way. You did something. So
Thank you, Nia. And I mean, I think you're right. And Max, that idea again of mindfulness, right? So if we do everything with that mindfulness, it's inevitable that we're going to affect and impact others.
Right.
I'm like, we need snaps. I don't know if I'm like, can I snap closer to my microphone?
Snaps. No, I think that, when you're living with intention, a lot of times we don't know. I have mentors who have no idea they're my mentor. I watch them and I see them and I just say, okay, this is how they're, navigating through this. This is how they're reacting to that. This is how they show up in a stressful situation. And I haven't ever said to them, oh, will you be my mentor or you're my mentor? It's just, I just soak it in.
And I think it's important to acknowledge the people who are impacting you, right? Because I think that's my friend, Brittany. And we actually had a breakthrough today for her. I got to watch her rise today. It literally was the best part of my day today, was watching her rise. But that being said, I think we have to thank those people that impact us so much more often. We had a thing at our corporate office where it was a Women Empowering Women Day, and we all had to write something to someone within the office about how they impact you. And it was just so amazing to see this board of pictures and little notes that everybody had written each other. And I just think it's important, take the time, write a note, or tell that person how much they impact you, because you don't know when you're going to have that opportunity again. And that might be the encouragement they need also. They're filling up your cup. I think it's also important to pour back out and fill back up their cup, because I definitely have had leaders or other women, and I don't know if they know how much they mean to me. So I always try to take the time to write a letter and say hey, I really needed that. Or sometimes I'll open up my email box and I'll have a letter from somebody who I had no idea that I was touching, but their encouragement allows me to, continue on, and maybe it's the pick me up that I needed that day. We all have those low spots. And so we have to remember to pour back into others, because we don't know when somebody else is needing it as much as we needed it.
Right. And just, making sure that I find that the easiest way for me to start feeling better is to be in service of others. Right. Absolutely. And that immediately shifts my mindset to, I'm so grateful that I can be in service to others, because it's joyful as opposed to that temporary happiness. We'll get temporary happiness from some type of fleeting thing, but that joy that you have in your heart from really giving of yourself and receiving that back is so special. Any closing thoughts before we move on to our call to action?
I think we've got a question from Tommy.
Okay, great. Question. I feel that gay men have a different relationship with women. How can gay men support women? Well,
can I chime in on this?
Yeah. Oh, go for it.
I posted something on Facebook. I think it was last night. I'm going to read it. It says, if you've never had a Supreme Court case decide if you have the same rights as others, you have privilege. There's your answer right there. You supporting other people, being an ally for women, that's all we want. That's all we need. And Tommy, you have been supporting women through Fashion Week. You may not even realize it, but there have been so many women that you have supported and helped launch their careers and put on the runway or behind the scenes. And just being an ally for women, that's all we need. That's all women ever want. We want support. And I don't know if you guys agree with that, but to me, that is what a gay man can do to support women.
Right.
I love that. That's perfectly said. I love that.
Yep. No. Here's from Nehal. What is the one thing you can reflect back on that has helped you get to where you are today?
Oh, wow. For me, I would say probably it's a few different moments that probably got each of us to where we are today. But for me, it was, I remember my husband at the time when I was looking at, not my husband at
No,
the
well,
time,
that
it's the
was
same
me.
husband,
That
but it was
was
at
me.
that time. It sounded right. That sounded weird. My
No
husband at the
judgment,
time.
Lubna. No
Yeah,
judgment.
he's still here. I mean, no, really. I mean, no judgment, but it's the same one. Just so happens to be. He said to me, you know, the whole get out of your own way. He said, you know, you never want to be the reason that you don't do this. And he said, I don't want you to resent yourself. I don't want you to resent me for not supporting something that you don't even know what it could be, right? And so I think there's something to be said for what we're saying earlier, is surrounding yourself by the right people all the time, because those people really do affect us in so many ways, whether it's a spouse, a significant friend, and for me, I've learned over the years, and Nia talks about this all the time, as your circle gets a little smaller and you trust fewer people, not because the other people are not trustworthy. It's just that you just have to be a little bit more aware of the advice you're getting and where it's coming from and the context of where it's coming from. And so for me, Nahal, I would say just kind of taking that advice from him and saying, this is really scary, but I'm going to do it. And what's the worst that could happen, right? And then ever since then, is just, you know, keeping certain people close enough to me that I feel nurtured at times when I just didn't feel as secure, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably an ongoing moment, if that makes any sense.
That's a perfect segue into our call to action, which is lifting each other up. So what we'd love for everybody to do is to carry this conversation forward and carry this action forward and go onto social media, post a picture of yourself and where you feel beautiful and powerful, and then post pictures of other women who really lift you up, whether they are in your close-knit family or whether they are somebody who's in the public eye. And then we'd like for you to hashtag them with Women Empowering Women and I Lift Her. The I Lift Her is specific to our conversation tonight because, as you know, it's just like I have this like terrific warm and fuzzy feeling just from the conversation that we have had, and when you know and reach out and say to somebody, I lift her, I want to lift this woman, and then we would love to see that have a ripple effect and move forward, because we know that as women we can accomplish anything, and that we're so much stronger together. And we're so much stronger when we are working together towards all the helping one another achieve whatever that might be, whether it is getting through a day or making that leap into being an entrepreneur or walking down that runway model or designing that dress or picking up that microphone, whatever that is, we can help women really achieve. So I want to thank you, ladies, so much for such an incredible snap.
I love the snaps.
Snap. Please, everybody, remember that Fashion Week is such an incredible force in our community, and we're so fortunate to have Fashion Week Columbus here. Passport to Fashion is tomorrow night, and then the finale show is on Saturday. So grateful for all the sponsors that make that happen. And I also really want to shout out to Aditi, who has made the magic happen here tonight on some short, quick notice. She's another woman that we lift her. We lift Aditi, right? Thank you so much. And I am just super excited for everybody to just continue to pay this forward with those photographs and the I Lift Her hashtag. So again, have a wonderful evening, and namaste, ladies.
Namaste. Thank you, Vicky. This was awesome.
Thank you. Mwah.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.